I represent Thai Kerala, and today we are very happy that we are going to have our eighth Coffee for Charcha initiative. Now, I'm sure that many of you would have attended this exercise before, but there are again few of the newcomers for their benefit. This we launched last year, around same time I think, and that too from Trivandrum. And the first Coffee for Charcha was hosted by IBS chairman, executive chairman V.K. Matthews, and it went off very well. It was a very highly successful exercise initiative. So we started repeating it, and this is the eighth time we are repeating. Now, on the very first day itself, when we launched it, NK has volunteered that I'll be the next one. Right. But some or other we have not been able to keep pace with him and get him for this. So we are extremely happy that today we have Nandakumar with us to host this exercise. A word about this exercise. This is basically giving an opportunity for our members and few selected non-members an opportunity to meet our charter members, discuss with them, and then have a sort of dialogue in an informal setting. And this is the feedback we got from our members, that though we have this monthly program for various other initiatives, they don't get enough time with the charter members. Why? Charter members are the people who are going to, handhold them and mentor them, and a lot of knowledge transfer takes place when you interact with the charter members. One of the valuable takeaways for our members. So we thought we will have exclusively a chance for them given only to interact with them. That's the background. That we started, and we found it has been very highly useful and a value-adding exercise. So here we are, and I have a great pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of Thai Kerala, and then hand you over to our president who is here, new president who has just taken over, Rajesh Nair. Many of you know him already. Then we have our charter members, our charter member Jacob Matthew, who has joined us recently. He is the MAPE managing director, founder, everything actually. You must have heard about this company. And then we have Roy, who has been a senior charter member, who's from Trivandrum. We are also expecting G. Vijayaraghavan, the Technopark CEO, the first CEO. He will be here anytime. And we are also expecting Damodar, who is the coordinator for this exercise. Now I have a great pleasure to hand you over to Rajesh.
Thanks, Casey. So again, just as a brief, we launched the Coffee Pe Charcha series so that you have a slightly closer unit, because the regular time meetings, we have a lot of people. We have close to 100 odd people in every one of those meetings, and you hardly meet some of the key speakers. So here the format is slightly different. You are hearing one speaker, and there is a lot of time for Q&A as well. So that was the base motive, as Casey mentioned. I have the pleasant duty of introducing NK as well. So I work with Ernst & Young, otherwise that's my day job. And we opened office here in 2011, and NK was one of the first promoters we met. And in fact, we started working with NK much before we started working with a lot of others as well. Something very interesting is, just as we opened office out here, I heard him speak in Thrissur, at Thrissur Management Association, and he talked about crossing the chasm. And this was a book which he had read, and then he had presented that. And this was one of those moments, when I keep taking notes, and then suddenly you hear something and you look up. It's like, seeing a beautiful person walking across the street, and suddenly you look up and, you try to figure out who this, he or she is. So that was the kind of experience I had when I heard him speak. And then, of course, we kept interacting. We do a lot of, as a firm, we do a lot of consulting work with SunTec as well. There is a large CV which I will,
I don't think you need to
I will shorten, and he's one of the original entrepreneurs. One of those first generation entrepreneurs who started business way back in late 80s, when probably the only role model businessmen were Balan K. Nair, Jose Prakash, KP Umar, those were the entrepreneur models that we had. All those people in those movies who were doing all the wrong things. And entrepreneurs in Kerala, that was the broad impression, and that was when NK started off. He started with Keltron doing work there, and I remember he mentioning that Wipro was
Keltron was my career. When I started SunTec, my first competition was Wipro.
Yeah, Wipro was competition. It was like way back in 91 or
1991.
Otherwise, NK's Masters in Physics, he's followed it up with Masters in Management as well. And he has an executive degree from London School of Economics and Wharton School of Management. And he's there in most of the, especially IT-related associations that we have in India, NASCOM, GTech in Kerala. He's an active member of TAI as well. And he was the Trivandrum chair for CIA as well in the past. Something which some of you don't know is he actually did the Mount Kailash trip last year, and incidentally we were on a flight from Delhi, a late evening flight, and I see NK completely suntanned with a six-pack standing out there. I was just wondering, this guy looks like NK. And then he said that no, he's actually been trekking for the last 21 days with Sadhguru and a group of people.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience, which probably I can talk about it for almost one day.
So that's broadly it. Otherwise, we are here to hear NK, and happy that some of you could make it today. Thanks.
Thank you, Rajesh. Actually, it's almost 26 years since I started this entrepreneurial journey. Let me give you a little bit of perspective of why I did and what was the context in which I started. Personally, if I had not gone to computer field, my early childhood ambition was to become a scientist. So I liked physics, to be very frank. So I was an ardent, I was very passionate about physics for some reason. So that's why I went for masters. In fact, I didn't go for engineering, I took it away. In fact, I didn't get into electronics only because I only got in a civil. I thought I would do masters because of that. But fortunately, before my results were out, I could get a job. That was in HCL. To be very frank, I have not talked about that before. I started with HCL in Chennai just for about 1 year, less than 1 year. That was in 83 and 84, just after my masters. And then a small time I worked with another firm, but then joined Keltron. So to be precise, my major only professional experience or employment experience in Keltron, that's 5 years. So right from the beginning, so there was some sense in me that I thought at some point of time I want to do something of my own. This was always in my mind, even during my college days. Of course, there is a little bit of background. My family also had a little bit of business background. And so I saw some of the positives and negatives of entrepreneurship. A lot of negatives, how you can screw up business and mess up with the situations. So that was a little bit of learning. But what was most striking, which really motivated me after just 5 years in Keltron was a couple of things. One, the phenomenal kind of opportunity an organization like Keltron gave to me. That is, I should say that in 5 years I would have attained something like 15 years of experience. I would say people always call this is one of the topics which I always talk internally. Talk about, hey, I have 5 years experience. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It depends on what did you do in that 5 years, right? So to give you a perspective, in 5 years in Keltron, I could do close to about 14 projects, which is typically only 190. And this is much before all these .coms and this time. So Department of Electronics, Department of Telecom wanted to build a billing system for the whole nation. So for that, the first pilot was given to Kerala Circle. And they they actually floated a tender and awarded this contract to 2 companies. One was Wipro, another one was for Transmatic Systems. And Transmatics, along with Tata Unisys, had won the project in Trichy, and Wipro got the project in Trivandrum. So the terms of that contract was very interesting. There are about 10 circles in Kerala. The point was, whoever develops a better system will get the remaining 10 contracts. So the first one was a pilot, and Transmatics was initially planning to do this with some of the professors from Random Engineering College, and then it didn't work out. So that's time I happened to meet Mr. Ravindran, who is the managing director of Transmatics, and he said he came to know that I'm leaving because I knew him before that. And I need to highlight one more point. When I started this SunTec at that time itself, we started this company. I had a partner, Mr. Suresh, who was our head of marketing from Keltron. He also started his own company, and we had a little bit of interesting arrangement. We said, both of us will start our own companies. We will have a little bit of cross-holding, by which if one fails, we will have the other one. This fails, we will have the other one. That was the idea. And it was a little bit of cross-holding, but mine was less investment, that was more investment, so my holding was slightly different. That was only different. We followed that model, and to fast forward, we finally took up this project. So this had a very interesting economics. This is also, I want to talk about this in terms of planning your business. So when I decided this, number one, I should not be putting any money of my own, right? So zero money has to go in. So as part of the contract was to deliver the software in 6 months, and every week of delay we had to pay about 1% penalty. And the total software value was 1 lakh rupees, just the software. I'll tell you that part of it. And the whole hardware was close to about 30 lakhs or 35 lakhs. On those days, software was given free as part of hardware contracts. There was software value was very little. And that to get a 1 lakh for software was a significant value on those days. And of which only 75,000 was given to me as part of the deal. 25 was for the Transmatics to keep as part of the contract. So to me, it was very interesting model because at that time I was earning a salary of 5,000 rupees from Keltron. So it's about 60,000 per annum. And if I compare this, in 6 months I am getting 75,000. So it is double the salary. So the economics was good, but the negative side was on the higher side. But again, I'm taking a leave from Keltron, and the whole thing was this. But this has had a bigger problem, saying that I cannot afford to hire anybody other than me, isn't it? Because there is no other room for one more salary. So that was the starting point. And I took it up myself. I started a bit late. That software was written personally by myself. And it took halfway through, we got another contract as part of it to convert the manual records into computerized record. You go to, all the records were in manual written in the computer. It's called SRC, subscriber record card. Every telephone index was manually existing, so you needed to transfer. So there was a data entry operation that needed to be performed. So we got that contract also, because interestingly, that became more valuable than the software development, because every record we used to get about 4 rupees, which is into 30,000 was getting about 1.2 lakhs just for that activity. That helped me to hire the first employee. So halfway through, about 3 months down the line, I hired the first employee. His name is Vimal. So with him, the understanding was very clear that whatever he has to stay with me for at least 1 year or maximum 2 years, and after that I will find him a job if this is not going well. Anyway, 6 months, we were on time. We were 1 week delayed compared to the other party. And I'll fast forward a little bit. We got also, our software got rated better, but Wipro being Wipro, the first phase they said both the software will be continued, and we got half each. Another 3 more projects for them, another 3 more projects for us. But in this process, what I was looking at is that every project delivery had to be profitable. So how do you make it? That is where the product philosophy came in. So that means there were about 330 SSAs in the country. So the repeatability of the software is 330 into whatever numbers it is. It's a phenomenal market. So my next aim was, how do I capture the whole of the country? So next 1 year, as part of this implementation, we were implementing it other places. I redefined the whole software again and made it completely, I called it as completely idiot-proofed, and also it can be installed very fast in every other location. So that is where the whole effort was went in. And another 1 year down the line, the Department of Electronics and Telecom at the national level decided to standardize on 3 softwares. One was ours, the other 2, one was Wipro was also there, and TCS software was also, TCL Bell South software, 3 of us. And we were brought together at one place and asked us to come to a common ground. So when they looked at all the software, they evaluated on a functional index. So we were rated somewhere close to 98. The other 2 were at 42 and 46. So this was an interesting report. Suddenly it was Mr. Vittal, who was the chairman of DOT at that time. I don't know how many of you know him. And so this was an interesting meeting, and finally they decided there's no meaning in asking other 2 guys to develop almost another 100% of their functionality. So they decided to standardize on only our software. So that was a big event that happened in 1993. So effectively, our software became the only standard in the country. So by then, we just had about 4 to 5 people in the company. So that one possibility was close to, each location was worth about 3 to 4 lakhs. So you can do that semantically, I don't know what it is. So that was the potential. So let me take highlight few learnings here. One was from the first year itself, we were profitable. And absolutely cash flow driven. I never borrowed, when I went to the bank, there's not even loan. Okay, by the way, I forgot to tell you, when I struck the deal, I asked for 25,000 rupees advance and a computer to work on, because I didn't have a computer, because that would have costed 1 lakh of rupees on those days. So I didn't have to invest on computer. And the second thing is that I actually lived in the DOT computer center. I actually lived. And they had given me a bed on the side of the computer center. I lived almost 6 to 7 months there, pretty much. So sometimes sleeping on the floors of the computer center because you might sleep off, and programming on multiple terminals also at the same time. So this was the fun. This was right in the, if you know Trichur, the round, Cochin Devasambod building, and that we were on the 5th floor of that building. Anyway, it became, from that perspective, it was a couple of things from this point. One is that we made this as a true product. That means any new SSA, they could go and install it very fast. Why is it important? I'll just tell you, see, I'm competing with somebody like Wipro, who had enough resources, and they're close to about 10 or 15 member team developing this in competition to us. How do you make this level of difference? So this is one of the phenomenal possibility in software. It's well said, none other than Steve Jobs. He said, if you take any other human skill, the difference between the best skilled person and an average skill is only about 40% variation. That means if you've got a best sprinter and a record holder, the difference in run is only some 30 or 40%, not more than that. But in software, there is the difference could be 100 times. It is not because a person who is doing in a very disciplined, reusable manner can create software which can be 100 times faster than people others write. So best example, all of you are WhatsApp users. When the guy who wrote this, when it was sold for $19 billion, the company had only 16 people. You can imagine the value creation that's possible. So many times we get overwhelmed by the number of people, all that kind of thing. It's just not required. To be very frank, I could connect to this very well. It was me alone programming, and it's not only programming, it's design, development, and one more gentleman, Vimal, and development, and then implementation. We are actually running the software, producing the bill. There's no testing, nothing. It's like the system runs in production for the first time. So the testing, you cannot have a software which is first time right. It has to be first time buy. There's no second questions about it. Now, this opened up the possibility. In 93, when this was standardized, naturally you exhausted the market, right? There is no more Indian market to be won. So the only other choice for me was to look international. So while this was happening, so it is not that all these 300 sites are going to be installed, because the software what we developed was owned by DOT. I didn't own the IPR. So they had the right to give it to anybody to install it. So what we had to do was we were approaching other hardware vendors and telling them, hey, we are the developers. If you want to, you can work with us. We will install it for you. So we were only getting what's known as the installation revenue from India. So, but the beauty is that this has helped me, this become my cash cow. It helped me to create something of my own. So I started this journey in 94. That was I call this as orbital growth. So a little bit of learning. One is that if you start a venture, you should try to make sure that you're profitable from day one. I mean, in today's terms, it is you are funded, you are looking for VCs, you are looking for other people. So equations are different. There are people who are willing to give you money. But in my view, I mean, in those days, there's no word of VC is just not known. And there was not even, I went to a bank for buying a computer. So that was the end of that, and the kind of question they asked, I said, I'm no more going to take any money from any banks. So I never took money, and actually this computer then I didn't have to buy, because as part of this, I got as part of the contract itself, and I bought my first computer only after 2 years or 3 years. So I didn't even have to invest on capital for 3 years, and the company was making money by then. Now, in 1995 is when I decided to go international. There are a couple of things which you need to understand here. One is this software. When I decided, this is for billing system for telecoms. So if you really look at any telco company, they have, if you take the whole IT stack, there's only two major pieces of software. One is called BSS system, another one is OSS system. OSS stands for Operating Support System, and BSS stands for Business Support System. And anything, the switches connects the call, and from there onwards, it is the billing system or BSS system takes over. And this is essentially it is something like this software is, that piece of software is between their cup and lip. They have invested billions of dollars in the network, and how they monetize this is through this software. You understand the connect between this? You know the telephone bills which you get, right? The plans and the packages and everything is done in the software. So if the software is not good, your flexibility, your adaptability, your ability to recognize your revenue is all going down. So it is such a, what you call, business critical software. And because of that, this software was priced very, very high on the international market. Typically, the license was in the range about $8 to $10 million. So when I decided, that is international, because it has been sold by people like AT&T or Lucent or like people like Bell Canada, and it is entering into that market, right? So I need to be very clear, how do I win against those guys, right? So you need to, this is only to put the context. So here I am, I'm living in Trivandrum and no background, I've never traveled outside the country. So I don't know what the hell, it's not that of course today is a different issue, I never traveled by that time. So it was a question of, it was not the Google days, right? If you had to find out what's a telecom, the only thing is go to library and read the book. Nothing else matters. You can't Google and find out what the hell going on, right? So if you had to find what is a new record telecom switch, how the record comes in, only way is to get hold of their manual. There's no other option, physical manual. That's the only way you can learn that thing. So, here is the second part of, second orbit of my journey. So the first orbit is all about this. I can say two parts of it. One is the initial stage of just building that software. Nothing else mattered to me. Just making that software in 6 months. That's all what mattered to me, right? Once that was done, next bit was, how do I make it for the national level of success? So another one and a half years, I made that software to be so flexible, so reliable, so that anybody could go and install. Actually, the way in which we used to install, one person goes with a CD to a site, and he goes there, install the software, and also produce the invoice and collect the invoice and come back. Payment and come back. So that was the model, because it takes about an year for it to install, because you have to train them, you have to transfer their data all to this, and that was how it used to happen. So we had even gone to the places like Sri Ganganagar and Kashmir and all that kind of, all over the country. We installed about 220 SSAs in the country altogether. That's over a period of time. Now, in the third phase of my growth, I call this, every company has to do this, it's called orbital growth. I call it as an orbital growth. So you can't be, as a startup, you can aim for the big, and if you can, but otherwise plan for orbital growth. Hey, let me go to this level and then see the next phase of it. Now, when I was looking at this possibility, there are a few things which was very obvious to me. One is that it may not be possible for me to sell directly to the end customer. So I definitely need some partner. That was a necessity. So it is like force multiplier, right? So hey, if I'm going and selling $5 million, okay, 10 million, 10 to 20, when I said typically we should be pitching in the $5 to $5 million range. And first question is how long these guys are going to exist, right? And it is the whole business, the whole software is critical for my whole business. I've spent billions of dollars, and if this doesn't work, my entire revenue is gone and companies will go bankrupt. Okay, so in this case, I was looking for this. This is where sometimes you need to be a little bit lucky in business. So once we were looking for this, we got a phone call from one of our competition itself. Interesting thing is when Wipro, one of the gentlemen who was in the sales side of it, knew my partner, which is Suresh, Roy also know him well, and called him up and said, hey, there is a billing requirement for a Malaysian company. And they want a billing system, but we are not interested because our division is getting wound up because our software got become national standard, right? So the Wipros, that team was dismantled. So these guys said, hey, anyway, we are not going to do it. If you guys are interested, why don't you bid for it? So this was, by the time we got this opportunity, it was almost the date was over. So I called up the company, and it was the CTO I spoke to, and I said, look, from such and such company, and we have done a lot of work for India, and will you be interested in working with us? So then he said, hey, sorry, you guys are late. We already decided to give the order to Singapore Telecom. That was the conversation. So, but I put on the phone, and then I thought, what do we do next? I said, let me call him again. So this time I asked him, hey, how long do you think this this is going to take for you to install the software? Will it matters to you if I can implement the software very fast for you? And will you reconsider in that case? So he said, why are you asking that question? I said, we've done some extremely fast implementation for India. So I knew that is one of the considerations. And he said, that is interesting. He said, what time we can implement? I said, this is only 6 months I took for the first build-up. So tell me, how much time do you need? So he said, it is interesting, but after a while he called us back again. I said, if you're willing to do something for us very quickly, we might be willing to talk to you. I said, wonderful. I agreed for that. Third day, the CEO, CTO, and the CFO of that company landed in Cochin. I took them to Trichy, that's where the first thing, and on our way back in Taj, Malabar, that's a Malabar, right? So we sat with them, and so then they opened up. What really happened was these guys have already set up a network in an island called Langkawi in Malaysia. I don't know if you know that place. And the network was already up and running. They already clocked about 2,000 to 3,000 customers. But what happened was they completely forgotten that they have to have a billing system. Everything else was set up. The consultants were more focused on the engineering side of it. That was New Zealand Telecom. And they were focused on the network and all that all out. The billing system was, hey, finally we can get something. So finally when they went for the billing system tender, they realized it takes about 18 months to implement. So I said, so that was their problem. That means for the next 18 months, they are going to run this network with absolutely no revenue. So that was a disaster for a startup company, for a telco company. So that was, this is where I became lucky, to be very frank. And so they asked me, what do you do? We just want to fix this problem. We want something to build the customer. I said, I will do this for you, but then with one condition, if I do it for you, you should give me the main contract, which they agreed. So I promised that I'll give them a billing system in flat 30 days. So that was something unbelievable for them. And actually they paid my travel ticket, and about $5,000 is what they paid me. And I went there, in 30 days I produced a bill for them. That was the first version of our own product called TBMS. And actually I wrote everything in a laptop. Because that was the only time the laptop was just coming up, Toshiba, and that was the stuff. And the important part here is when you reach out to customer, many times you will get pushback. If I left that at that point of time, it was gone, then I was thinking about what would be different for this guy. So I had to make only 2 or 3 calls. By then actually I just hit what is the most important pain point for this guy, and they're willing to take a risk. And the only reason why this is sometimes we can call it as luck, at some point of time, but it is not truly luck, it can be by design itself. You can find out what would make the customer buy your product. That is what you should be looking for, nothing else. Anyone trying to buy a product has to see certain value coming out of it. Now, this was a phenomenal turnaround, and it went to the extent that these guys even wanted to invest in me going forward. They gave me the subsequent contract, the whole of that, and that was worth $300,000 on those days, which was a lot of money, much more than any of my other combined contract. And that delivered. In this process, what happened was, in India, we were partnering with Tata Unisys as one of our partners. The Unisys, on a global level, wanting to get into telco space. You need to understand this is the 90s. 90s is when the globally countries opened up telcos for private sector investment. A lot of telcos were coming up all over Europe and in Asia, and US was already happened. And there were only few billing companies in this world at that time. One was a company called Bell Sigma. Another one was the Keenan, which was most of us know. Then another company was Single View, which is the Intec. Intec bought them subsequently, but originally it was Single View. And there are only 4 or 5 guys, of which somebody like Intec. Bell Sigma is $1 billion in revenue, right? These are large companies. This is what the sweet spot which I've been looking for, right? It's a multi-billion dollar, it's all about multi-million dollar value, but it was a big ticket opportunity if you can crack that market. So the strategy was something like Unisys. So this is very important, right? It's like force multiplier. So when I went to Unisys, that is through Tata Unisys, because Tata Unisys was my hardware partner implementing in India, and Unisys was their partner. So their reference helped me to get to the other reference, and they sent one of their topmost consultant to come and evaluate our system, and his name is Percy Baraklaw, and you know many of us, because he subsequently became my CTO. And he came from Unisys, and